Ooh, an advert. That's a first. Hey guys, before we start the episode, we've got a bit of exciting news. Our first merchandise is available now to pre-order for release at the end of November. We have a sexy black t-shirt and a fantastic mug. So head on over to our Facebook group to have a look at the pictures. The t-shirt's available for £15, the mug's available for £10, but you can buy both of them together for £20. Worldwide shipping is available and dispatch is anticipated around about the end of November, so you should get them, fingers crossed, in time for Christmas. For ordering details, email planetmarzipanpodcast@gmail.com and put merch in the subject header, and we will send you all the details for payment. Now, on to the episode.
Welcome to Planet Marzipan Podcast,
Your fish and marillion podcast,
where we talk about all things in the planet of marillion and fish. I'm Meza, and here's my mate,
Craig Houston.
Hello, and welcome to Planet Marzipan. I'm Meza. I'm here with my good friend,
Craig.
Craig, this week, is it?
It's funny because my copy of The Remains of the Weekend arrived, and it wasn't addressed to me, it was addressed to Faye. There you go.
There you go. Came on a weekend as well, didn't it? So it's right.
Stephanie.
But the episode is called, as you've seen already, The Remains of Tim Sidwell. And we welcome back the remains.
Good evening, fellas.
Hiya, Tim. How are you?
Feeling completely dishevelled, so the title is right.
Well, we haven't had Tim on the pod for a good while because he's been a very busy boy, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the next sort of hour or so. But we've invited Tim back on to talk a little bit about some of the fantastic stuff that's come out from our favourite band in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, The Remains of the Weekend, the second part of Port Zelande 23 has just hit. And we haven't really talked to Tim about the first Blu-ray either, about an hour before it started live in Port Zelande. So we'd like to do that. And then whatever else comes up, if that's all right, Tim.
That's absolutely cool, yeah.
Okay, so the Blu-rays are from, or the DVDs are from the convention in 2023, 17th and 19th of March 2023. How early are you involved in the discussions for the plans for Port Zelande conventions?
I don't remember as far back as that, even though it was only a couple of years ago, but I can tell you that we're just about to start talking in earnest about next March. So if that's a barometer of anything, then it's usually the autumn of the year before Port Zelande. And that's when all the plans for the tent come together. And obviously all the tickets have been sold already. And Stephanie's done her sterling effort in getting everybody shoehorned into the place.
Yeah.
So we know that it's going ahead and there's going to be people there. And then it's just a case of getting all the heads together to make sure that, logistically and physically, we can all fit what we want to fit into the tent. And that doesn't just go for cameras. Cameras are pretty much the last thing that's thought of, really. It's all more about what kind of lighting they can put in and afford, and the staging, and all the bleachers and stuff for the audience. And this one that we're watching now, the 2023, obviously they changed the configuration of the tent as well.
Yeah,
which I think worked for us incredibly well, and it's made the films look a lot more epic.
They are stunning. I mean, especially the whole wide
the lovely shot is brilliant. Yeah, because you've got such a wide canvas, haven't you? There.
That's right. Yeah, and that's a lot to do with Jens and what he was able to do in the room.
Yeah, he really sort of lit the areas that were above the stage, but not being used, didn't he? Really.
Yeah, I mean, he's just incredible at painting with light, isn't he? Really, you know,
Yeah.
and it's not just about what goes on the stage. The light that he throws out into the audience, and the way, you know, the symmetry of everything, and the way that all the colours and textures relate to what's going on the screen as well. I mean, you mentioned it, the Hour Before It's Dark set. I mean, that's up there, isn't it, as one of the best produced shows I've seen in a long, long time from the band, because Simon's screen media combined with Jens's lights just, you know, just blows you away. It just looks so slick.
I'm pretty sure I remember saying when we reviewed it before Christmas, it's my favourite Marillion Blu-ray, but
I remember saying it.
it may have been usurped by the new one. I think,
Really?
yeah, it looks amazing. It sounds and looks amazing. Just watching it for the first time today, it's the first chance I've had to look at it. What I love about it is the blemishes are all there. So when H goes and wanders off and creates feedback on the mic, it's left in, you know, and when he stops mid-song and says something, it's all left in, which is great, because that's what it's like to be there.
Exactly. I think in the past, maybe we veered away from that a little bit to sort of iron it out a little bit and make it feel like a bit more of a slicker show. But I think we can get away with it a bit more, it being, you know, the conventions, and it's more of a, you know, it's more of a family thing than it is trying to, you know, push out this slick image of the bands. And you're right, it's what a Marillion show is all about. There's those little creases in there that are quite endearing and funny, and, you know.
But as a fan, they're the thing. I mean, we all love the music, but the things that happen as a one-off are the things you talk about, aren't they? Things like that.
It's like the Bell in the Sea, isn't it? On a Sunday night when Ian had to change his snare drum, and they just sort of roll into that for a little bit. It's quite a nice moment.
But I like the way that you've actually kept that in as well. You keep going back to changing it over, so it's not just it's not ignored. You know, it's like
But it's the reason why they were playing the song, isn't it? And Marcus is there trying to sort of change things around and remic it and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
And was the team the same team that you've used previously for filming the show?
Yeah, I mean, we only had a small team in 2023. It was the first Port Zealand after the pandemic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And to be fair to the band, they wanted to try and, you know, get as much money out of it as possible to make sure that everybody survived over, you know, the next couple of years. So we had a very small setup that in 2023. There was myself, Jez Mason, who's been part of the Marillion filming lineup now since 2015. I had Dave Emery, who's been on board since the first convention. Chris, who's also been on board since, God, he filmed the 2005 with me.
Oh, right. Brilliant.
Doddy, his dad, filmed the Bohemian Rhapsody promo.
Did he?
yeah.
Yeah. Alex Dodd is, he's filmed Marillion with me for a few years now.
Yeah.
His dad, Barry Dodd, is quite a legend in our industry. And yeah, he was part of the team that filmed the Bohemian Rhapsody promo. And yeah, and the tech stuff as well. Yeah, I keep a quite close-knit team over the years. I mean, depending on the size of the job, we bring in different kind of camera operators. But yeah, the guys that come out to Port Zealand, they come out because they really, really enjoy the crack, have a great time as well.
Yeah.
As being indoctrinated with neo-prog.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. How much time do you get to enjoy the weekend?
Well, not as much as I'd like, to be honest, because over the last few ones, especially, we've tried to film more than the gigs. And last time round, we were doing a lot of filming for Marillion Monthly.
Yeah.
So, you know, we sort of go into the weekend thinking, oh yeah, we'll you know, apart from the, you know, the big setup, which we have to do when we get there and make sure everything's working and functioning technically. I was hoping that we'd be able to sort of kick back a little bit more in the daytime, but no, we make a rod for our own back, don't we? And we try and squeeze as much as we possibly can out of the experience so that everybody can enjoy it. Who, you know, as a keepsake for people that were there, and also for people who can't make it or couldn't get tickets, they can, you know, actually try and experience the vibe of the weekend. Through film. And it looks like, you know, we obviously, it being the last Port Zealand ever next year, we've got to try and commemorate it somehow on film. So that's kind of being thought about at the moment as well.
Right. Does that mean we might see more elements of the weekend being filmed Um,
particularly gigs.
I'd like to hone in on the fans' experience more, because when we did Unconventional in 2015, although we were around the park and filming what the fans were up to, we never really got into the nitty-gritty of a fan's experience of it.
Yeah.
And it was more from the band's point of view and the, delivering the music and the gigs point of view. But I think this time round, it might be a case of, a lot of people that are coming next year will have been to quite a few of them over the years. So there's going to be a lot of stories, a lot of experiences, a lot of, funny tales and anecdotes. It'd be really nice to sort of capture some of those somehow. And it may well be that we ask the fans to turn the cameras on themselves with their phones, and I just ask for a load of what we call user-generated content.
Yeah.
And then have to sift through everything to try and piece together what it is about the weekend that makes it so special.
Just strap a GoPro to Barnsley Wood and
Yeah, that's a great idea.
you've got all your extras are there. Not quite sure what rating it would get, but yeah.
Judicious editing, I think.
The special effects would be amazing though, wouldn't they?
They would be, yeah. SFX department.
We have threatened Planet Marzipan live at the convention at some point as well. So,
you know what? I think that would be amazing. And I've often thought, listening to you guys. I mean, a lot of podcasters YouTube their podcasts as well, don't they? These days.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know whether I'm making more work for myself, but if you want to do one, and we'll bring a couple of cameras along, and you can have your YouTube debut.
We would love to. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Yeah. You did. If I could do whole sentences, that would help, wouldn't it? The DVDs came from, was it Poland one year?
Poland.
You didn't. One year you didn't film Port Zealand, did you?
Yeah, that was 2017. We went over to Santiago.
Oh, Santiago.
That was the Chile one.
Chile, yes, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I think at the time we thought, the people have seen the
Change the scene.
Change the scene. I mean, funnily enough, those films are some of the most enjoyable that I've been involved in. I mean, we had a blast being out there in Chile, obviously, apart from half the crew coming down with food poisoning and basically crawling onto stage in order to shoot the thing.
Yeah.
But we approached it in a different way, and those films have got little inserts in them. We went and saw a couple of fans, and we filmed a couple of different bits and tried to present the films in a different way. And I think, if memory serves correctly, some of the way the songs were ordered on the discs weren't actually reflective of the set lists.
Yeah, slightly.
And it wasn't a case of trying to, fuck it all up for everybody. It was just a case of trying to present a Marillion show in a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were really enjoyable to pull together. But I think the sales of them haven't been that fantastic, really, which kind of points to the fact that people do like the tent. do like that.
I think the tent, even in the original configuration, just gives you something different, a different canvas that you just don't get elsewhere. Even in the grand scheme of the Royal Albert Hall, it's completely different.
Isn't it? It's almost like Port Zealand is Marillion's home in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of coming into their front room to see them play a series of shows. But the 2023 shows that we filmed, like I said, we had a very small crew. And it's interesting that you should sort of put the remains of the day above an hour before it's dark. So we're filmed in exactly the same way, really.
I have to be honest, though, I love the Sunday night set list. I know it's split over the two discs, but I think the Sunday night set list for me is a proper convention set list. It doesn't flow as a set list. I'm not pretending it does, but the list of songs are things that they very rarely play, or have never played in the case of Older Than Me.
Yeah, I mean, it looked beautiful as well.
Older Than Me, it's stunning. It looks and sounds amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that was a real nice one to pull together. I mean, it's only a short song, isn't it?
Yeah.
The rarity of it and what Jens did with lights.
It's beautiful. It really is.
Just this, and how Mike, mixed the audio. It just sounds amazing. It sounds far beyond anything that I remember listening to on The Hard Shoulder when it came out.
Well, we haven't reviewed that, but it's a favourite of mine anyway. But yeah,
Yeah. But, Afraid of Sunrise as well.
Yeah.
He comes and sits down and the screen media behind him, and we've got the tracking cameras in the pit, just going slowly backwards and forwards and just giving it that lovely little bit of movement that sort of really goes with the song. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I really like that Sunday set list. And I can reveal that I'm gonna be putting the two halves together. So it's all one thing, and that's gonna go on the space
oh, brilliant.
at some point before
With a super glue.
with the super glue, yeah. Sticky back plastic
Have you got any particular favourites from the Friday night set?
from the Friday night set. I mean, having listened to your review of Fear,
I know what you're going to say.
I do like El Dorado.
It's all right, Tim. We'll have that. Eldorado looks amazing on the film, I have to say. I've discussed it in great length over the last month or so, but
Yes.
it looks absolutely beautiful. And the way you kind of go from the screen media into the full auditorium at the beginning is really clever.
I mean, that's the great thing about what we've all done with the screen media over the years and I like doing it with other bands as well that use screen media, is trying to find a way of incorporating it into the final film. Because sometimes it sits on the back screen and it's just there as a texture.
Yeah.
But, it's been designed to sort of, tie in with the music. So if there's any way of getting it incorporated into the film, but I think on that film, it's the only time I've actually used like overlays or something. Everything is just behind.
Yeah. Did you have? I get the impression that the mic stand setup in the middle was a bit of a challenge when H was playing the keys.
Keyboards behind, yeah.
Yeah, always is. And funnily enough, I was watching some of the Royal Albert Hall earlier on today, and I remember we had exactly the same problem there when he went back to the back of stage on his keyboards. Our main camera on him is always at front of house, and it's always on long lens. Especially at the Royal Albert Hall, his front mic was just completely in the way, so you have to take another angle on him.
Yeah,
but it helps to add to the variety of shots and everything else that goes with that.
There's some shots in I think it's in Friday night, which seem to be almost from the side of the stage there in Guitar World.
Yeah. John was back there on camera, sort of looking after Mark on keyboards, and Rothers. He'd come round and shoot Rothers' hands for solos.
Yeah,
but especially in Fantastic Place, I noticed he'd found a little gap between Rothers' amp and something else, and it was like shooting through. And I love that kind of stuff. It gives a completely different perspective on it. That it's not it's not all polished and everything.
Yeah.
It's like almost like the tech's point of view of the show. And
how long's the edit take on one of these films?
Considering the sets are quite long.
Well, that was a particularly nice edit to do, because once we'd finished in Port Zealand, about 2 or 3 weeks later, I took myself off to Mallorca with all.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and I sat down in my hotel room for the best part of the day, just doing the draft edits of it. And then I'd get on the bike and go and cycle up some mountains later on in the afternoon and rinse and repeat the next day. So that was quite enjoyable. But I mean, when you've got a camera setup as condensed as we had for that, it's not that difficult to bring the edit together initially. And then once it's all together, and at that point, the only audio I will have is the reference mix from the desk. So, which is good enough to create a draft edit. But once Mike starts sending me through the polished mixes, then I can start hearing things that I hadn't heard before in the reference mix. So I can point cameras at, I can get different angles on things that I might have missed in the first edit. Then it will go back to Mike, and he'll kind of look at what I've done and evolve his mix a little bit, and it'll go backwards and forwards a couple of times like that until we get to a point where we're both happy with what he's hearing and what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So altogether, like a 2.5 hour show, about 2 or 3 weeks all told.
Yeah.
But that 2 or 3 weeks will be spread out over however long it takes to do all that toing and froing.
And at that point, then it goes to the band.
Yeah.
For their
That's right. Yeah.
without naming any names.
Who's the most awkward?
How much input is there from the band?
Well, what we do these days is I chuck up the edit onto the internet, and Rothers, Mark, Ian, and Pete are quite happy to watch it like that. And over the years, their comments have got less and less and less and less and less. I mean, you'd have hoped if you do something so many times, you know what to avoid and all that. And we've got to that happy place at that.
I think they trust you, Tim. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, which is really nice. But H always likes to sit down with me and just go through everything. And it's not that he doesn't trust me. It's just that he needs to know that, for his own peace of mind, that if there is something in there he doesn't quite like, an angle that he doesn't feel is very flattering, then he can ask me to have a look for different shots. And then if I can't find an alternative shot or nothing else works, at least he knows in his mind of minds that nothing can be done about that, and he won't have to worry about that. You know, it is what it is, essentially. But even with I mean, this one was a bit of a mammoth one, because we took one day and we went through the whole weekend.
Right.
And,
Okay.
you know, and it must, I mean, I hate being on camera, but it must be awful for him. And he said it is awful for him to sort of sit there and have to watch himself and listen to himself, because he's being hypercritical of not just the way he looks, but of his own performance as well.
Yeah.
And he's having to sort of take all that in, and also, you know, make notes for Mike on the audio side of things, and, you know, kick me in the ribs if he sees something he doesn't like. But, you know, those sessions are quite nice to do. Really, really enjoy them, sort of sitting down with H for all that time and going through everything, because it's nice for him as well, beyond all that kind of self-criticism and stuff. It's nice for him to be able to relive the whole thing.
Yeah. There's a lot. There seems to be a lot more crowd shots in this new film. Is that because I think that helps capture the real feeling of the weekend. There's a lot more sing along. There's a lot more sort of crowd interaction, and the shots of the crowd are they're wide shots as well. So you've seen large sections of the crowd, which is great.
Yeah. I think it's crucial, isn't it, a Marillion weekend, that you do that, because it is just as much about the audience as it is about what they're watching. You know,
Yeah, you're looking for the usual faces as well, which is
that's
good.
right. Yeah. And this time around, obviously, it was particularly sad to see James on there, and it was around about the time that James passed that we were going through the final stages of producing this Friday night and the rest of the Sunday night. And I was sitting here sort of doing all the tweaks and polishes to it, and his face kept popping up on the front row. And I was thinking, it's so sad that he's left us.
Yeah.
And is it appropriate that he should be on this as much as he is? And I thought, well,
Oh yeah, definitely.
of course it is. Yeah,
I mean, he's especially front and center in singing along in 3 Minute Boy.
that's
Yeah.
right.
It's great because you've put him in the credits as well as the head of the front row, which is a really nice touch.
Yeah.
It's James Greenwood we're talking about, who's sadly missed. But yes, I think there are. Unfortunately, you do get to see me on it.
Oh, yes.
Other people, and his lordship here, who's having a great time, but not telling his face as usual. But yeah, it's good. It really does capture the feeling of being at Port Zealand, I think, this one. And I think it is that. It's just the amount of care and attention that you put into capturing the audience shots as much as anything else.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, and I think we'll next year we'll probably have pretty much exactly the same camera setup. So it's interesting, because every film that we make, I try and look at. I mean, you like to think that you're putting something great out into the world that people are going to enjoy, but you also see all the flaws and all the things that could be better, that might not be evident to everybody.
No.
But I certainly sit here sometimes in the edit this week thinking, oh God, if only we'd done that, or if only we had a camera in that position, or if only, whatever. So all those little things are, learning points for us to go next time and, try and do that little bit better again. And, I mean, don't tend to feel the pressure, but there is kind of pressure to make the next one the best it possibly can be, just because it is the last time there. And it's going to be so sad to have to leave that place.
Yeah. As long as it's anything like these ones, Tim, I think you'll be fine.
Cool.
You
Have
know,
you
you
had
do-
have you got a particular favourite of the set lists from the 2 DVDs? Is anything that particularly stands out in each one?
I do like, I mean, from the Friday night, I really like the Levers. I love that song anyway. And remembering also back to the Royal Albert Hall and editing the Levers from there, it's just, it starts with such a great opening section, buoyant and upbeat and stuff. And then every single section of the song's got something about it that translates really well onto film, especially with Simon's backdrop behind it.
The screen media for that track's brilliant, yeah.
So, I always really loved 3 Minute Boy as well, because I love the screaming bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
I love the sing along bit at the end, and that's a real fun one to do as well. So yeah, what else is on that set list? I should remember, but
Friday night is El Dorado, This Train Is My Life, The Party, One Fine Day, Fantastic Place, No One Can, Dry Land, One Wet Circles That Time of the Night, The Levers, 3 Minute Boy, and This Strange Engine.
Yeah. Well, we just put This Strange Engine up onto the space over the weekend, and that's had some great feedback from people that watched that.
But yeah, as I say, well, have you got any favourites, Craig, out of the 3 sets?
Oh, I really enjoyed on was it Friday night when they did Dry Land.
Yeah,
I really love that song. I would always have, and obviously 3 Minute Boys. The funny thing is, I got the Remains of the Weekend at the weekend, and I have watched it twice already, and it's Woody Tuesday.
The title,
and I haven't skipped anything yet.
The title comes from that session actually when me and Ake sat down and watched the whole thing through, and I can't remember what we were talking about. I think it might have been to do with Older Than Me, and he said it was to do with an old French film that he'd seen called Harold and Maude.
Harold and Maude, yes, yeah.
Which has got nothing to do with the Remains of the Weekend, but we got talking about films and stuff, and we started talking about Remains of the Day. And he goes, "Oh, this is like the Remains of the Weekend, isn't it?" And I said, "Oh, that would be a great title."
Yeah.
And then as usually happens, there's this little round robin email from the band and everybody at Racket saying, "Well, what should we call this? What should we call this release?" And all kinds of titles were. So usually we try and find something of relevance in the lyrics somewhere of a song.
Yeah.
I just said, "Oh, well, I just said something about Remains of the Weekend," and that seems tight, sort of says what it is, really.
It's a great title. I think we interviewed Mr. Kelly last week, and he has erroneously accredited it to Mark Kennedy. So there's the real story, folks.
Yeah,
it wasn't Mr. K's work. Sorry, Mark. We'll play Mark for it.
Which was saying, it depends on which order we put these episodes out.
Yeah.
It's a great cover as well, though. Give Mr. Kennedy his due.
It is. I think it's great. It makes a great pair, doesn't it? No, I like it. While we've got you, Tim, can we talk a little bit about All One Tonight? Because we have recently put out a 2-parter. We're talking to you today, and the first part's gone out.
Which is doing really well. It's gone
which is very entertaining. I listened to it this morning.
Oh, great. Thank you for that.
We are talking to you. It was too long.
Well, yeah, it is. It's a bumper episode. It's about 1 hour and 20, I think, isn't it? But there's a lot packed into it.
If they're Marillion fans, they're used to long stuff, so it's fine. None of these 3-minute things.
It's a podcast, yeah. We've asked a lot of people about their memories of the first Royal Albert Hall gig, Tim. But have you got any specific memories of this?
Oh, it's just such a wonderful day. It really was. And I can't remember whether we talked about this before, but I mean, that whole experience for me is probably is probably the favourite experience I've got with working with any band, because unlike Port Zelande, where we might be involved about 3 or 4 months ahead of time, the Royal Albert Hall was a completely different kettle of fish. We knew about it well in advance. I was involved in a couple of production meetings at the Royal Albert Hall, and we made sure that everything was fine-tuned to go where it needed to go and to achieve what we wanted to achieve, which these days, in terms of filming shows, it's a very, very privileged place to be in, because a lot of the time we are brought in at the last minute and have to sort of compromise in where cameras go and where what we can use and what we can't use, and there's all kinds of health and safety issues and whatever. But that was a completely different show, and like Lucy said in your first episode about it, she got everybody in place to do a specific job.
Yeah.
And I think obviously that worked really, really well, because it felt like a really well-oiled machine, going through it. And I can't remember where we were, but I was in the dressing room when they heard about the ticket sales,
Right.
when it went on sale, and the disbelief on everybody's faces about how quickly it had sold out was just incredible. And I just love the little story that Lucy tells about how the Royal Albert Hall were extremely, what's the word?
Reticent, yeah.
Yeah, about how Marillion would do there, and then they go and sell it out in 3 minutes. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, it's a real couple,
Fantastic.
isn't it? Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
I mean, at that point, we'd filmed there a couple of times. We did the John Lord tribute show
Oh yeah,
with Deep Purple, and that was like full orchestra, all kinds of people coming on and off stage. Paul Weller, Bruce Dickinson, Glenn Hughes. That was an amazing thing to do. And then we did Bring Me the Horizon,
yes,
the Teenage Cancer Trust, again with the full orchestra and the choir, which was Choir Noir, who obviously ended up on Now Before It's Dark. So we'd already sort of built up a kind of knowledge of the place and the best camera angles to use. And Dave Emery, who I'd mentioned before, he films there all the time. I think he's basically lived there over the last month, from what I can tell.
right.
Kinds of stuff there. So he knew the best place to put the jib and all that kind of stuff. So we really did get the best out of it. And the end result, I think, it gives me goosebumps whenever I watch it. And it's not just because of what we did, but it was just because of the whole thing. Jens lit that room absolutely beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mentioned, I think in one of the other pods not that long ago. There's a lot of footage of Dave Gilmour's current tour where he played the Royal Albert Hall, and his light show and setup and thing like that was just nothing compared to what the Marillion stage setup was. As much as we absolutely love Gilmour for the legend that he is, what Jens did, and what Simon did with the backdrops and things, stuff like that, it's just out of this world.
I saw it when I was watching it earlier on. H mentioned something about having been to a David Gilmour. It was after they played Go with all the finger lights.
Yeah.
H says something about having.
He says that he had all sorts of shit going on, but it wasn't like this.
That's right.
I may have watched it a few too many times. But no, it's as we've said on the episodes, everybody wanted it to go well, and the film captures it fantastically. And then the launch at the movie screenings was a really nice touch.
Yeah, that's and Lucy couldn't remember anything about that.
No, but clearly.
Tell you what, I remember, obviously, because I went to the one in the King's Cross Everyman, but I'd completely forgotten that we'd put it in other cinemas across.
Oh
the
yeah,
country. Yeah.
So as I say, I saw it in Leeds. It was great. Loads of the usual suspects were there. We had a great night.
Fantastic. Yeah. No, that was cool, because to transfer the film onto the big screen, you have to produce a different kind of file to export it, and it's quite an intensive and time-consuming process. So there was a lot of extra kind of post-production and export work that went into producing the files that went off to the cinemas for that. And I remember I had to go to the Everyman in Birmingham with all the files to just test them out and watch the film through in the auditorium, make sure all the 5.1 stuff was working and the surround sound was in the right, coming out the right speakers and stuff. So there's a whole process to go before we even got that film onto the screen. But I'm so pleased that we did, because it was such an epic day and an epic night. It deserved to be up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to think one day we might be able to do that again.
Well,
I'd love
we-
to. Hey, the thing is, I'd love to see All One Tonight on a big screen, and I'd love to see the Elberford Stark and Port Zealand on a big screen,
Yeah,
because
that'd
they would look absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Meet
Well,
Iowa Cinema.
I was thinking as well, having watched I haven't watched it all back today, but I have watched sort of snippets of it today. I've been thinking, oh, shall I go back into the footage and do another, like
I read it.
another edit, see how different it would come out if I had to sort of, look at it in retrospect and have another go at it.
That'd be great to see.
Mm.
Yeah, but why not? Why not? Yeah.
Well, the shits and giggles mix.
But my personal experience of the gig was not as grand as everybody else's, because the gallery was under the stage in basically what is the Royal Albert Hall switch room.
Oh God.
So it's not exactly glamorous.
No.
And I experienced a gig through watching it on the multi-view on the television screen and completely detached from any atmosphere that was in the room. So my experience of watching it is pretty much the same as anybody that might have bought the DVD or Blu-ray that wasn't actually there.
Yeah.
So it's quite a strange thing to.
Were we right in what we said in part one, that the band had run through the whole set in the afternoon and you'd filmed the close-ups and?
Just the second set, not the Fear set.
All right, okay.
Yeah, because they wanted to rehearse with the girls and Sam, make sure that everything was in place. So we saw it as an opportunity to get some cameras closer up where we might not have been able to get them there before. So we put a tracking camera in front of the drums and in front of Mark. So there's a few shots in the second half of the show that might have been, sort of prized in from the afternoon shoot.
Bit of movie magic.
Bit of movie magic, but you know what? It's not a rare thing for that to happen.
Yeah.
Especially if you're just playing one night in such a big venue, and they're spending so much money in order for us to be able to film it. The facility fee at the Royal Albert Hall is just astronomical, and you want to make sure you get the best you possibly can out of it. So I mean, it's funny. H always moans about having to have some during the sound. We didn't make him sing at all.
I think he was, as we said, I think he was a bit nervous about just delivering on that night, isn't he?
Yeah,
incredible.
I heard you had the chat about the nerves and everything, and I think the moment where his nerves went was at the end of the space when
absolutely,
he hit that note and everything was rosy.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a great night and a great film. Have you filmed in the Royal Albert Hall since?
Yeah, so we're working a bit with Cirque du Soleil.
Yep.
So for the last 2 or 3 years, every January when they do their residency there, which is through January and February, we've been going down and doing lots of behind the scenes stuff, interviews, lots of stuff that ends up on social media in Instagram Reels and stuff like that. We also do a lot of filming of the show, but not to produce a DVD or anything of the show, but to just capture moments that they can then use for promo footage.
Yeah.
So it's just such a joy to go back there every time. You never tire of walking into that auditorium, especially when there's nothing in there, no audience in there, and you walk into the room and just, so you have to pinch yourself sometimes. And, it's only because of Marillion that I've been able to work with Cirque du Soleil.
Is it?
Because the guy that brought me into the Cirque du Soleil fold, Olivier, he's a huge Marillion fan. And I met him at an after show at Hammersmith when we did that show that you I met him briefly after that, and he got in contact afterwards and said, do you want to come and maybe do some filming for us? So it's through this wonderful band Marillion that I've been able to sort of get myself involved with Cirque du Soleil and go back to the hall at the beginning of every year, and we're talking about what we're going to be doing in a couple of months' time there as well.
So haven't you been across in Germany this summer for Cirque du Soleil?
Yeah, well, we went to Prague. Me and Chris went over to Prague to do some filming. I've been over to Gdansk with them, Milan. We went to Split. So we've been all over the place to do various bits and pieces, and kind of building up, that body of work with Cirque du Soleil has been really, really mind blowing, to be honest, because the productions and the shows that they put on,
amazing.
they're so well honed and slick and so professional, and but being in the company of very flexible and bendy people for a couple of days, see inadequate as a human being.
The opposite of a Marillion audience is the very flexible and bendy people.
But yeah, so Cirque du Soleil at the Royal Albert Hall, and but no band since 2017, unfortunately.
And you've been we said at the top of the conversation you've been a busy boy. So who have you been filming recently?
So I can't remember the last time that I was on the pod.
Just a few months ago now.
Because we filmed Elbow at the end of May, beginning of June on their Audio Vertigo tour at the O2 Arena, and that footage is slowly being dribbled out as promo material for their summer shows next year. So that if you bump into one of those adverts online anywhere, that's what we filmed at the O2.
Yeah,
the whole show has been edited. The band have seen it. There are no plans for it to be released at the moment. So I don't know what's going to become of the whole thing.
right.
In one way or another, it'll go out at some point, I think.
Yeah.
But what else have we done? We just filmed Alice Cooper at Hammersmith, which was great fun. That was one of those shows that we found out about 3 weeks before they wanted to do it. And of course, the whole place was sold out and we couldn't put cameras anywhere. But somehow we managed to cobble something together. And I mean,
that was through EA Music as well, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, that's another connection through Marillion that has sort of paid dividends. Because I've also, myself and Simon Ward have also been working for EA Music on another couple of projects. One with Albert Hammond, the old songwriter who wrote things like One Moment in Time, Whitney Houston, Leo Sayer's big hit, and We Built This City by Starship. All those, and we were filming with him at the Green Screen Studio, where we filmed all the Marbles screen media and all the Fear screen media just outside Reading. We did that 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
so that was good fun as well. Yeah, but Alice Cooper was great fun. And they were a great bunch of people as well, the crew. We filmed the last show of the world tour, and probably the last thing on earth that all those people wanted was a film crew.
So the crew,
they didn't cause mayhem. Well, we went in. We didn't cause mayhem. It was really good to work with them.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. And then, well, I don't know. This is probably was filmed quite a while ago, but This Strange Engine Deluxe is about to hit at the end of this month, 22nd of November, I think. When was that filmed?
The
documentary, sorry.
Yeah, the interviews were probably filmed last October.
Oh, right, okay.
So quite a long time ago. And the guys in the band at the time said, we can't remember anything. And I probably already said, haven't I? But,
You say they say it to you every time, don't they?
I'm sitting here sifting through 7 hours worth of interview footage, trying to make sense of it.
Well, we may have seen a cut of it. It looks fantastic, and there's some nice revelations in it as well, I would say.
Good.
But yeah, it's as we've both already said, it's usually the first thing that we put on when the box arrives, rather than listen to the music. Is watch the documentary, because it's really entertaining.
Yeah, it's just sort of, you hope it sheds new light on something. I mean, there's been so much written and said and filmed and talked about Marillion and their albums over the years that I sit here sometimes thinking, is this stuff that people already know? Is it worth doing this? But
do you not think we think that, Tim?
Well,
with this rubbish, none of this is enlightening. I know that, but people listen to it, which is great.
But the thing is, there's always stuff in the documentaries that we don't know. There's always stuff. It's always entertaining to hear the band's versions of what they remember, what they think the history is.
That's right.
And whether it's right or not.
And the fact that is just one part of what is going to be a really, really nice package of material. All the archival stuff that James has found, and there's a show on there as well that I've tried my best to sort of spruce up a little bit, and the new mixes, and I think the artwork on this particular release is pretty great. For me, when This Strange Engine came out, I was kind of a bit like, what's all this about? For me, it didn't look like a Marillion album.
Too brown.
Yeah, too brown. But I think what Simon's done with the artwork and all the different plates he's done for each of the songs, it really ties the whole thing together and makes it it gives it a new kind of identity, I think.
Yeah, we've not seen the packaging, but the front sleeve looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's black now. It's not brown.
And it's good that they're continuing on into the Castle years, right? You know, it's good that it just didn't finish with the EMI stuff. So
Yeah, because we're looking at .com next, I think. Got an idea what video stuff can go on there as well. But it's going to be interesting from a documentary point of view, because the next albums came out quite quickly, one after the other.
Yeah, the bam bam bam. Yeah,
and I think their memories about that whole little period might be a bit kind of, I don't know, one album might sort of melt into another kind of thing. But it'd be interesting to have a chat about it.
Yeah, I think, as you say, the stuff that James digs out for these packages is fantastic. The work in progress mixes, and particularly when he finds a reasonable take of a song that's maybe 2 albums prior to when it actually emerged.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
But I think there's more chance of that over this period, because, as you say, all the sort of sessions kind of blended into one, because I think there were songs on those 3 albums that, if it were currently a Marillion, would never have seen the light of day.
Yeah, very true. I mean, they were under pressure, weren't they, to create 3 albums in a short period of time.
Well, that's where the revenue was coming from.
Yeah, it's against their instincts completely, isn't it?
Yeah,
to do something that quick.
Things like Hope for the Future and Built-in Bastard Radio might never have seen the light of day.
I've got me fighting gloves and everything ready for when we do the review of This Strange Engine remix.
Sneaky preview. Craig has a newfound love for Hope for the Future.
That's probably one of my favourite sections of the documentary, actually, because H loves it and Rod absolutely despises it.
I think the remix of Hope for the Future is absolutely fantastic. It's my standout track from the album, and it's a hill I'll die on.
But you love El Dorado, so
yeah, so it is.
yeah. Swings and roundabouts. What are you working on next, Tim? What's your next project?
Well, I'm sitting. Me, Lucy, and Mark had a bit of a meeting about the space last week. So there's going to be a bit more activity with that coming up to Christmas. We're going to be putting a few bits and pieces on there that we've either been holding off for whatever reason. So there's going to be a bit of an influx of content onto the space.
Great.
We try and sort of make it more of a relevant platform in terms of new material going forward, because it was kind of started as a place where we could just pull an archive of stuff that people had got instant access to. And the platform that we've used sort of makes it feel like it should be like a Netflixy type thing, where there's lots of new content going in all the time.
Yeah. And
there's a pressure in that kind of world in order to keep subscribers that you do that, because if you don't put too much content up there, people will get, they'll lose interest and sort of drift away, which is what we don't want to happen. So, next is a good opportunity to be maybe doing some more exclusive programming for the space and putting up stuff there that would be of great interest to the subscribers, and trying to find a fit of the way that it works with the YouTube channel so that everybody gets a little piece of something.
Yeah. Does that mean, you could possibly go answer that, but what do you know what the future holds for Marillion Monthly?
Well, it kind of went on a hiatus over the summer because nothing was happening.
Yeah.
And people were away, and there was just nothing going on and no scope to actually do anything. And now that everybody's got really, really busy with doing prep for the conventions and everything, it's kind of again sort of is stalled a little bit. That's not to say it's not going to come back in 2025. There's plenty of stuff going on for us to be filming and stuff.
Yeah.
But for the moment, it's taking a little bit of a break. and hopefully we'll be able to revisit it next year. Especially when, because we've got the first half of the year as the conventions, and then hopefully there'll be a lot of activity around a new album as well.
Well, they've announced a festival, haven't they, in Cornwall?
In Cornwall as well, yeah.
Yeah.
In September, in the middle of nowhere.
It's down south, Craig. It's not like going to one in Newcastle in September, is it?
But people are like going to one in Newcastle in the middle of July. Oh, that usually rains.
But yeah, it's the new film, Tim, is just fantastic.
I'm so pleased to hear that you like it.
And I'm sure everybody else will as well. If you've got it already, you'll already know. And if Santa's bringing it for you, then you've only got a couple of months to wait.
Oh, if this is out now, you've probably only got a couple of weeks to wait.
Depends probably.
Ribbly wobbly, timey-wimey.
We're speaking to you on US election day, so the world might be very different by the time I hear this.
Yeah. And you probably hear in the background lots of fireworks going off because that's what was the headphones on.
The 5th of November, yes, bonfire night. But Tim, it's brilliant to have you on. We love you coming on the podcast. We'll invite you back on to help review something in the near future, if that's
cool.
okay with you.
Where are you up to? You're up to Fear, are you?
We don't do it chronologically, Tim. It's all over the shop. So
okay.
We knew Fear would be contentious, so we held it off for a bit, but then we had to just release the Fear. So we did, and now I'm on a hate list somewhere. So it's fine. It's fine. Thankfully, Mark Kelly hadn't heard it when we interviewed him, so he did speak to us. But
that's good.
But yeah, it's great, and I think the conventions next year will be brilliant, and we're all looking forward to Port Zelande in March.
Yeah, I think I've seen a set list knocking around as well.
Yes, he did tell us that was being discussed. But we had Guy Vickers on the call as well, so he wouldn't talk about it because Guy runs a set list competition across Port Zelande weekend.
Well, I mean, I'm really looking forward to next year. I think in terms of filming the shows, it's going to be a blast. And even though we'll have the same setup as we did last time round, if people like what we did, then that's great. I mean, there's potential that we might be filming it in 4K, but I'm not going to promise anything. That very much depends on something else that's going on. But yeah, I think what's important about next year is not only that we capture the shows that people will remember them fondly for, but try and capture people's experiences as well. And yeah, let's put this seed of thought in people's heads. I think what I might do is I might produce like a shoot list for people, to cover various parts of their experience at Port Zelande. Their journey there, what it's like, the accommodation, give them a few questions to answer on camera, and sort of harvest a load of footage along those lines. So
bit like 101.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, the Depeche Mode film, yeah.
So it'll give people a really, really good opportunity to be featured on the last Blu-ray to come out of Port Zelande.
Yeah,
really weekend.
Get the extras that last 6 hours.
That'd be great. Have you, on a completely unrelated note, Tim, did you see the Tears for Fears film?
No, I've not seen that yet.
Oh, it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Was it just at the cinema?
It was just at the cinema, yeah. They haven't announced the release yet, but no, it looks fantastic and sounds great, yeah. Highly recommended. And I think the last time I spoke to you, we talked about the Simple Minds documentary.
Oh, yes.
Which I have now seen.
It's good, isn't it?
It's very good, but it kind of goes up to a point and then stops, doesn't it?
Yeah, they concentrate so much on the successful albums, don't they? And then they skip a couple of decades. And
it begs a second part, I would have said.
It was really, I mean, that just goes to show how difficult it is to try and condense one band's career of that length into a feature documentary. I mean, it's something that's been on my mind for a few years now about how we might approach that for Marillion, as and when the time comes to sort of do a distillation of the career from start to finish.
Well, the documentaries are
they do, but you put them all together and you've got about 10 hours worth. It's trying to condense all that into 90 minutes. 90, 100 minutes. It's a difficult task. But I think the Simple Minds one did it really well. And off the back of that, I went to see them on the tour. And that was a cracking show as well.
I saw them at Scarborough in June.
Yeah.
Did you see were Delamitri supporting?
Yes, they were. Yeah.
They were amazing as well. I thought,
Yeah. That was a great show. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant stuff. Oh, well, look, Tim, thank you very much for speaking to us today. It's great to see you as usual. And if please go and buy the film, folks, or subscribe to the space because there's some exciting stuff coming.
Indeed.
All right. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
All that remains is to say is it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Take care.
You wanna say it, Tim?
Yay!
Thanks for listening to Planet Marzipan Podcast. Please like and subscribe from whichever platform you get your podcasts from. You can contact us at planetmarzipanpodcast@gmail.com and check out marillion.com, fishmusic.scot or fishmusic.eu for all the good stuff.